Video number 9. Number 9.1. I worked for 20 years in assisted living. In that time I have seen many elderly pass from this world to the next. The one thing they all had in common was that their deceased relatives were coming to them in dreams to take them home. On a personal note, my daughter, who was in a coma for 6 weeks, told me her grandparents were around her bed telling her that everything was going to be all right and not to worry. Her father, uncle, and aunt were also there. All these family members had passed away. She said she was frightened at first, but then she felt better. My daughter passed away 5 months later. I know she is with family who love her. Number 9.2. This happens a lot even here in Botswana, and to some of us when we visit a sick person who seems to get better all of a sudden, then we understand that he or she is now dying. The dying see the dead, and no scientist can understand that. It is the secret of God. He opens the spiritual eyes of the dying. Some of these people who see the dead relatives are not even religious. I believe this lady has done her research very well. Number 9.3. When I sat with my dying Auntie Alice, she was so peaceful, and towards the end she said that she could see her mother, my grandmother, and my Uncle Frank, who had passed away just a few months before. It was not scary for me, and Alice finally passed away with a smile on her face. Number 9.4. My mom passed away in home hospice February 26, 2022. The only comfort I had was that she saw her parents and other relatives. I never expected to say goodbye to Mom when I was 40 years old. It's been 5 months and I am still all messed up inside about how scared I was for her. But she was never scared for herself, and what calms my fears is what she saw. Number 9.5. My 81 years old mom passed 5 years ago. Mom was in a hospital in the ICU. It's a horrible dungeon with no windows, no natural light, almost like a tomb. Although her doctor wanted to keep her there, I sensed they only sedated her waiting for her to die. My mom was delusional, trying to tell me something. I booked her out of the hospital against the doctor's recommendation and took her in a semi-comatose state 240 kilometers back home. As we drove into the small town, she suddenly sat up, speaking clearly, saying I must not take her to the old age home but to the townhouse 2 blocks away where she and my dad stayed. Dad passed 4 years prior. Mom told me he is waiting for her there. I told her not to worry, he knows she is back in town, he will find her. Her soul needed to be freed from the dungeon she laid in for 9 days. Next morning my mom was wide awake, although weak, fully aware of her surroundings. That evening Mom raised her arms and spoke to someone invisible to us, saying "Soos you will jeskied, wis is the language of Afrikaans for as your will be done," and closed her eyes for the last time. That took my fear of dying away. I now know that your loved ones and angels come to guide you home. Please subscribe, like and share with anyone that needs these comforting stories. Search for my related book on Amazon using the title of 4,000 Deathbed Vision Stories. Sincerely, Ken.